So Brooke, I'm going to hand it over to you, everybody. This is Brooke Yoder. She works for Pear Deck. I'll let her introduce herself and set the stage and run through. But as we've talked about, obviously, if you have questions, throw stuff in the chat. Let us know. We want this obviously to be interactive. She's got some things she wants to share with you, but we also want to make sure we're respectful of your time. I say we as if I can answer your questions. I can't. Brooke is going to be helping with that. So don't hesitate to send your questions and ideas and stuff out so we can definitely make you as the best use of our time. So Brooke, I'll throw it over to you. I will be quiet, let you run the show, and thank you so much for being here this morning to help all these phenomenal educators.
Yes, well, thank you for having me. Like Aaron mentioned, my name is Brooke. I am a customer success manager at Pear Deck. I'm also a born and raised Iowan, so it's a really exciting partnership for me. I grew up near Iowa City, so I'm excited to be working with you all. What I'm planning to do today is to just start with a Pear Deck 101 training. So I just want to show you sort of like the nuts and bolts of Pear Deck, how to get started in Google Slides. And then for those of you who are able to stick around and would like to stick around, I'm going to have you join a Pear Deck presentation as a student participant so that you can get a feel for what being a participant looks like and feels like for students. And I hope that will help you feel more comfortable and confident about getting started. I hope it will sort of like help the Pear Deck experience to make sense for you from both sides. But also I'm going to be facilitating the Q&A in the Pear Deck, so I can show you some of the features and how you can do quick checks for understanding on the fly, how you can facilitate reteaching moments, scaffolding your instruction in Pear Deck, and just also give you the opportunity to ask your questions. But if you do have questions or you feel like maybe you missed something, you can definitely put it in the Google Meet chat. I will try to keep an eye on that as closely as possible, and we'll be answering them throughout. So just a couple more things. This is my contact information, so I hope that your questions will get answered during the session today. But if you do have questions as you're getting started, you can please feel free to reach out to me at brooke@peardeck.com, and I will put this information in the chat. So it's just Brooke with an E at peardeck.com. And if you've got implementation questions, you can reach out that way. Again, here's a quick agenda. So we're going to learn how to build a Pear Deck lesson. So how to take the Google Slides files that you already have created or are thinking about creating to use to present content to students, and how to make them more interactive and engaging, and how to build assessments into them using Pear Deck. I'll start a Pear Deck session and have you join so you can get a feel for that experience. We'll talk a little bit about how to use Pear Deck asynchronously, so what the student paced mode of Pear Deck looks like, and then I'll build in some Q&A throughout as well. And we'll also talk about how to manage your Pear Deck sessions, how to find or go back to student data if necessary, and how to set up your Pear Deck settings so that it works best for you. All right, so again, like I mentioned, if you already use Google Slides, or if you have slides presentations created, or if you share slides presentations with your subject area or grade level team, you are already like 95% of the way to being a Pear Deck user, because it works so closely with Google Slides that I hope will feel like a really easy transition. So the first thing that I want to tell you before I open the add-on is the easiest way to get started is just by opening a Google Slides presentation that you already have created. So think about something that you would already use to present to students, and open that from your Google Drive or wherever, and then open the Pear Deck add-on and start adding from there. There's no need to recreate any content. You don't have to make a copy of your presentations if you don't want to. You just add Pear Deck interactivity to the content that you're already planning or are already using with students. So, as I've mentioned several times already, Pear Deck is an add-on for slides, and it will live up here in this main file menu. So if you're familiar with Google Slides add-ons, it will just live in this same place, in this under this drop-down menu that says add-ons. I should also mention that you all have full Pear Deck Premium access. The entire state of Iowa has Pear Deck Premium access, so you'll just log in with your district email address, and you will automatically be upgraded to be able to use Pear Deck Premium. And we'll talk more about what features are premium and how you can maximize them in a moment. So when you click this add-ons button from Slides, you may see that your district has already installed the add-on for you. And if that's the case, you should see Pear Deck for Google Slides here, and you can just hover over it and open the add-on. So you can click this drop-down menu. If you don't see it there, you can click this button that says Get Add-ons down here at the bottom of the drop-down menu. That will open the G Suite Marketplace, and then you can just quickly search for Pear Deck. It might show up on the main screen as well. I will also mention that you don't necessarily have to be doing this at the same time. If you would just like to follow along, you can feel free to just watch and follow along while I'm modeling this. So, but it's up to you. You can be doing this at the same time if you'd like. So again, you'll click add-ons. You may see that your district has installed Pear Deck for you already. And if that's the case, you can hover over Pear Deck for Google Slides, open it. If not, you may need to click Get Add-ons, open the G Suite Marketplace, and then quickly install from there. Okay, so I'm going to just go ahead and open it, and you'll see that when you open the add-on, it will just live over on this little sidebar from within Google Slides. And there are 4 specific quick things that I want to share with you about the add-on before I start the presentation and have you join as students. So I already mentioned that the easiest way to get started if you're new to using Pear Deck is just by opening an existing slides presentation. The second thing that I always recommend for new users, new Pear Deck users, or people who just want a way to get started quickly is the template library. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is the template library. Pear Deck templates are pre-made, fully ready to use Google Slides templates that have Pear Deck interactivity already built into them. So it's a really nice way to use the robust set of templates to get used to presenting with Pear Deck and get like your feet under you a little bit. So we'll talk about the template library. We will also talk about how to use the 6 Pear Deck slide types to build in engagement and assessments and check-ins here. So we will talk about this Ask Students a Question section. The third thing that I want to tell you about is how to use the Pear Deck add-on to add audio to your Pear Deck presentation. So you can upload any audio file from your desktop. It's a great way to share sources with students. You can also record audio instructions or just an audio greeting with them from the add-on. And then finally, I'll show you how to start your Pear Deck presentation, and I'll have you join. So again, the first thing that I want to tell you about is the template library. It lives in the Pear Deck add-on here. So if you click this big blue button, you'll see that you have this full menu of templates to choose from. And again, the templates are ready to use. So they're the easiest way to get started. You can go from having never used Pear Deck to being a Pear Deck presenter in just 1 to 2 minutes. The great thing about templates, though, is that they're also fully customizable. So if you see something that you think will almost work for you, you can add it to your presentation and then just modify it a little bit so it's perfect, and then you can start presenting. So again, if you click this blue template library button, you'll see that up here at the top you have several lesson builders. So bell ringers, checks for understanding, assessments, temperature checks, exit tickets live here under lesson builders. If you scroll a little bit, you also have some learning development options, so critical thinking templates and also social emotional learning templates. I think the social emotional learning templates are the best way to get started, and I'm going to demonstrate with them in just a moment. And then down at the bottom, we also have subject area specific and age range specific templates. Another really frequent question that I get is how do I use Pear Deck in this specific subject area? Math is a really common one that we get. And so if you would like some inspiration for your specific subject area, I would recommend checking out the templates, the subject area templates from the add-on. We also just released a brand new set of templates that haven't made it into the add-on yet for PE and fine arts. So if you're looking for something for music or drama, art, PE specifically, I will send that information out in a follow-up email. Okay, so I was a 7th grade teacher. My 13-year-old students definitely would have benefited from me doing more frequent social emotional learning check-ins. 7th graders are very social and uniquely emotional as well. So I'm going to click social emotional learning. So when you select one of these menu items here, you'll see that it takes you to a preview of the templates, so you can see what they look like. And you can also see the interactivity or the Pear Deck engagement type that's already built into them. So you can scroll through to get a sense for what the templates look like. I'm going to use this stress check slide as an example. To add a Pear Deck template to your presentation, you just need to click on it from the add-on. So I'm going to click on stress check. You'll see the add-on working for a moment, and then you'll notice that it just gets dropped directly into my existing slides presentation. So the templates are the easiest way to get started because they're just slides that are there ready for you to use. They're a really nice way for you to check in with students, do a quick temperature check. There are assessments already built for you that you can use as they are or modify. So you can change the prompt up at the top. So if instead of stress check, I wanted to say something like, how are you feeling? You could do that. You can change the descriptors down below. You can delete the text entirely and just use this graphic to create your own check-in. There's a lot of room to run with the template. So I recommend checking those out first. All right. Something about the templates that I want to mention also is you can add as many or as few of them as you'd like to your presentation. So if you see 2 or 3 that would work well in the same lesson, you can drop all of them into the presentation at different points. Okay, so those are the templates. The second quick thing that I want to share with you before I launch this session is how to add custom Pear Deck engagement, assessments, interactivity to your Google Slides presentations. So I am just going to use this sort of like fluff icebreaker question. If you are like me, you've maybe been dreaming of traveling recently. So this is a static Google slide. And when I say static in this case, I mean there is no way for you to interact with this slide from your device without responding verbally or putting it in the chat or in some other place. So I want to add Pear Deck interactivity using one of these 6 Pear Deck slide types. So the 6 slide types are open-ended text response and multiple choice, a Pear Deck number slide, which allows you to respond with a numeral, Pear Deck website slide. So I joined a little bit early and I heard you all talking about a bunch of other ed tech tools, which is great. You can embed any embeddable website into a Pear Deck presentation using the Pear Deck website slide. So if you are using other tools like Flipgrid to collect video responses, Edpuzzle, Kahoot, Quizlet, you can embed them into your Pear Deck presentation. So students never have to leave the presentation. They can see your content on the screen and also see the website that you've embedded. So you can also embed things like news articles, YouTube videos, Google Maps scavenger hunts, whatever content it is that you want to share with students. As long as it's embeddable, you can drop it into a Pear Deck website slide. And then finally down below, these are 2 premium slide types. The drawing slide type will add a set of drawing tools to the student screen, and you will experience a drawing slide in about 5 minutes. So with the drawing tools, students can annotate on top of, highlight, draw, type on top of the content of the slide. And then finally, the Pear Deck draggable slide, which is what I'm going to create now, gives students a set of icons that they can drag on the screen to respond to your prompt. So in this case, the prompt is, where is your dream travel destination? And I want you to pay close attention to what happens when I click one of these Pear Deck slide types. In this case, I'm going to click draggable. So again, you will be doing most of your Pear Deck building, dropping templates, adding interactivity. You'll be doing that from the add-on in Google Slides. And this is what the slide builder looks like. So when I clicked draggable, the slide builder pops up in the middle of my screen. And then I have 2 things going on here. So over on the right-hand side, I have a student preview. So I can see what participants will see here. And then over here on the left-hand side is the draggable options menu. So when you join my presentation as a student, I'm going to have you respond to this prompt by identifying a place using the draggable. So I'm going to select this little pin from this draggable options menu, but you've got icons and math symbols, numbers, people, animals, places, punctuation marks to choose from. And you can find them from this drop-down menu here. But I'm going to select this little pin, and then I'm going to, I'll make this a little yellow pin. And then I can also change the size of this draggable item using this sliding bar so that students can respond more precisely to the prompt. You can also add additional draggable items. So if you want to hear more than one response from students, you can add more than 1 and up to 5 draggables. Okay, so I'm going to update slide. When you're creating check-ins or assessments in Pear Deck, when you add Pear Deck interactivity to a Google slide, you'll see this little footer gets added down here at the bottom. So this footer is important because it's what connects student devices to your presentation. It's what makes slides interactive. So you can't delete it, and I recommend just building your slides around this footer. So this slide is now interactive with Pear Deck because of this footer. If for some reason you wanted to swap out the Pear Deck interactivity type, so if you decide you wanted to make this a drawing slide instead of a draggable, you just come over here to the add-on and you would just select the new interactivity type, and it would automatically swap it out for you.
Brooke, can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
So when I've been playing around with it, and I thought one of the positives for this would be like our social studies all online teachers are struggling when they have maps that students would have initially drawn on in paper pencil. Is it possible, like, so that they could upload a PDF of a map onto here and then they could use that, like the pins and stuff as an option for marking specific locations?
Yep, for sure. Yeah, so you can upload a PDF or even like screenshot the map and add it as an image to the Google slide. And then you would the teachers would just create a key, or like they would say, like, use the red fish to locate Europe. Use the yellow pin to locate Africa, like continent identification or just like geography mapping. You can also use a drawing slide. If you want students to specifically identify places on a map, they can add text boxes to the screen so they can identify that way. Yep, okay. So they can definitely do that. That's a good question. Okay. All right, so the third thing that I want to show you from the add-on, and then I'm going to start the presentation, is how to add audio to your Pear Deck presentations. This is a brand new Pear Deck feature. It is especially useful if you are having students work in Pear Deck asynchronously in student pace mode, but you still want them to be able to hear your voice or give them some instructions. So to add audio to your presentations, you'll just click this big blue Add Audio button, and then you'll see that you can upload audio files. So speaking of social studies teachers, I know that I had some history and social studies teachers who were uploading things like speeches or historical songs, like audio to use as a source for students. So you can upload audio. You can also pre-record instructions for students. So if you want to record you like reading something aloud or introducing a concept and you save it to your desktop, you can upload it that way. You can also you can also record audio live. So I'm just going to demo live audio recording now. So I'm going to click this red record button, and I'm just going to record some instructions for you all to listen to as a demo when you are working as a student in a minute. So I'll click record and I will say, "Happy Wednesday. Thank you for being here this morning. Please spend the next 2 to 3 minutes working independently in student paced mode. Stop working when you get to the next yellow instructions slide. If you have questions, you can let me know in the Google Meet chat or send me an email after the presentation." All right, that's just a quick set of instructions. You'll see that you can delete the audio. So if you mess it up or you just want to start over, you can delete and do that. You can save it, or you can resume and add more recording onto the end. But I'm satisfied with this for now. So I'm going to click save. You can listen back to it once more. So if you want to make sure that it sounds okay, you can do that. And then you can click add audio to slide. And that audio will now be a part of, embedded into the presentation for students to listen to as they're working. So this is really nice, especially if you're assigning student paced mode Pear Decks for homework or review as independent work. It's nice if a student misses your live session, then you can send them a link to a student paced mode deck. So there are a lot of possibilities for adding audio. All right, so I am going to start the lesson. Deb asked, does it play automatically? Do they have to click play? They do have to click play. It does not play automatically. So I will show, you'll see in a second from the student view, students have a little toolbar on their end, just like teachers do. And they have this little, they have a little headphones icon, and they can click to hear audio when it's included. They can click the headphones icon. Okay. So let's go ahead and start this session. The fourth thing that I want to tell you is how to start your Pear Deck presentation. So I am going to click this green Start Lesson button from the add-on. This is really important. When you're ready to start your Pear Deck presentation, make sure that you're starting it from here. So click this green Start Lesson button. This is what makes the interactivity work for students. So again, click this green Start Lesson button from the add-on, and then you'll see that you have two options. You can launch directly into an asynchronous student-paced activity. It will give you a link that you can share with students, and they can just get started working, or you can launch a live synchronous instructor-paced activity, and that's what we are going to do today. So I am going to click Start Lesson, and then I'm going to click Instructor-Paced Activity. And then this is automatically going to start a new Pear Deck presentation for me in this window from slides. Okay, so if you are looking at my shared Google Meet screen, you'll see that there are a couple really easy ways for you to join this session as a student. So the first easy way is to click the link that I am going to give you. So when I started this presentation from slides, it launches this join screen. And I can click here, give students a link. It will copy it to my clipboard, and then I can just share it with you in the Google Meet chat, or you can share it with students however you communicate with them. So if you click on that link that I just pasted into the chat, you'll see that it will automatically join you as a student in my presentation. You can also go to joinpd.com and enter join code OJSQGE. And I will put that in the chat as well. I'll give you a little bit to join. If you'd like to join as a participant, you can click the link from the Google Meet chat. I think it will be really beneficial for you to join as a student, just to get the feel for what the experience is like. You can also open a new window or a new tab, go to joinpd.com and enter join code OJSQGE. Okay. That information will stay there in the chat. So if you haven't joined yet and would like to, you can come back to it and use that to get started. But I want to start moving us through this Pear Deck presentation. This is the first interactive slide for you in the student experience. This is the social emotional learning template that I added from the add-on to my presentation. And you'll see that you have a draggable item on your screen. So you have a vertical sliding bar that's a draggable that you can use to respond to this prompt. How are you feeling? I'm going to give you a 30-second response timer. I'll show you how to use the timer in a moment. This is a quick way to do a check-in with every single student in your classroom. It's a quick way to do a check-in with every student who is joining your presentation remotely. So in about 15 seconds, I was able to hear from every one of you who joined this presentation about your stress levels today. And it looks like you all are feeling pretty good, which is great. So when that timer wound down to 0, your student screens locked automatically. I want to show you a couple of things now that your screens are locked from my shared Google Meet screen. So look at my shared screen in Google Meet. This is the presentation view. It's also called the classroom view. So when you are using Pear Deck live with students in the classroom, the screen that I'm sharing with you, the presentation view, is the one that you would project up on the projector or on the smartboard, the screen that's at the front of the room, because this is where you can share group responses. So you'll see that here from the presentation view, I can hide or show responses, and then we can see the full snapshot of responses here anonymously. So from the shared presentation view or the classroom view, student responses will always be shared anonymously. This is the first view of Pear Deck. It's the view that you as participants and me as the presenter, this is the view that we share. The second view of Pear Deck that only I have access to right now is the teacher dashboard. So if you were watching closely when I launched my Pear Deck session, you may have seen that a second window opened on my laptop screen. So I'm going to bring that second window into view now. I have two screens right now. I have a second monitor connected to my laptop, and that's when I'm presenting remotely, when I'm presenting webinars, that's where I keep my dashboard, is on that second monitor. So I can just share my full laptop screen with participants and then control the presentation sort of from behind the scenes using the dashboard on my second screen. So this dashboard is going to be has the potential to be a really powerful teaching tool for you for a couple of reasons. So let's just talk about the basics of the dashboard first. So you can see which students have joined your presentation from here. You can see the roster of students who've joined. And you can also see which students haven't submitted a response yet. In this case, all 6 of you who joined this presentation have submitted a response. If one of you hadn't responded, you can scroll down here below the rest of the responses and it will show you who hasn't had the chance to respond yet. So you can immediately see which students are either not fully participating or who may be indicating that they need a little bit more help from you because they're not responding to the prompt. You can also change the way that you view responses up here in the top left-hand corner. So right now we're seeing responses in what we call overlaid layout. So you can see a full snapshot of student responses here. You can also change to grid layout. So you can see how each student responded very quickly in a grid. As a reminder, this screen that I'm sharing with you, the presentation view, these responses are anonymous, and this is what you'll share with students. This dashboard view, the second window, opens automatically when you start your Pear Deck presentation from slides, and it's where you can see how each student is responding from sort of behind the scenes. So you wouldn't share this with students. You wouldn't bring this on your screen because part of the power of hearing from them is that they know that you are the only person who can see how they're responding.
Brooke, I have a question.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so if you don't have the benefit of having 2 or 3 monitors, how would you recommend a teacher, go back and forth? Freeze screen? Because most of us are going to be teaching from one screen.
I would say that if you can split your screen, so depending on the type of, there are ways to split your screen in 2. So that you can keep your presentation view on one side and your dashboard view on the other side. I would recommend trying that. You can also just be careful about which, so right now what I'm doing in Google Meet is I chose to share my entire screen so you can see everything that's happening on my laptop screen, but you can choose to just share a single window or a tab. So I could just share this window with you. And then when I brought the dashboard, when I have the dashboard here, you wouldn't be able to see this dashboard. You would only see the window behind it. You can have your dashboard open in a second tab. So you can jump back and forth between these tabs, or you can also open your dashboard in a second device. So if you want to, if you have you may not have a tablet, but you can also run the dashboard from your phone if you want. So you can open the dashboard on your phone and be controlling student responses that way. I will say Pear Deck was created thinking that it would mostly be used in person in the classroom. It happens to be incredibly useful for remote learning, but I don't want to sugarcoat it and say it will be, Pear Deck is easy to use, but it will take a little practice the first time, just to manage where to put your windows and how you want to manage sharing with students. I always practice these presentations with my sisters. I have 3 sisters. So I like to practice with them. They give me really very honest feedback. So I would say lower the stakes a little bit and practice with a colleague or your kids, your partner, your friends, whoever it happens to be. That is helpful. That's a really good question. Okay. All right, so I'm going to move us forward here to your next Pear Deck interactive slide. So from your Pear Deck student screen, where you joined my presentation using the code or the link, you'll see now that you have a set of multiple choice options.
Sorry,
So from your student screen, use those 4 multiple choice options to tell me about your experience level with Pear Deck. So this multiple choice option is great for quick assessments, quick checks for understanding. It's great to just do a quick poll anywhere. I will show you the responses so you can see the responses coming in real time on my shared screen. I can see quickly that we have 1 experienced Pear Deck user here, which is exciting, and 4 people who've never used Pear Deck before. So thank you all for being here. Erin, I think you're the experienced Pear Deck user. Yes, I hope you learn 1 new thing today. And then for everyone who's brand new, I hope that you learn a lot of new things today and feel comfortable and more confident about using with students sometime soon. So again, these responses are anonymous. From the dashboard, I can see who responded. I can see which way each of you has responded, and I can also see who I'm waiting on a response from. All right, 1 more interactive question. This is the just like fun icebreaker. Where is your dream travel destination? I'm going to give you another response timer. I'll give you 30 seconds. So again, from your student screen, use the yellow pin to respond to this prompt. If money or time or logistics, a pandemic were no obstacle, where would you go on your dream vacation? Okay. I'm going to show these responses here on the screen. Let's change it to overlaid layout so you can see very quickly who responded and in which way. Draggable items are super versatile. They are good for matching. They are good for memorization practice. They are good for icebreakers like this. I'm going to bring my dashboard back onto the screen because there are some more controls that I would like to share with you. So here, you can lock and unlock student screens, and you can do this from the dashboard or you can do it from the presentation view as well. So you'll see that I have a set of tools from the presentation view and I have a set of tools from the dashboard. And if I click on lock screens, you can't change or submit a new answer until your screens are unlocked. So I want you to watch what happens when I click on lock screens and I hold my mouse down. So I'm going to click here on lock screens and hold down, and that's how you can give students a timer. So this is really nice, especially when students have draggable items on their screens. There is the potential for them to get distracted. So the timer is a nice way to build in some urgency for students. It's also a really nice way to make sure that you are giving students the appropriate amount of time to respond to your prompt. When I was teaching, the feedback that I always got from my principal was that I needed to slow down and give students more time to process and respond to my questions. And this is a really nice way to do that. There are a couple of ways to interact with individual student responses from the Pear Deck teacher dashboard. So again, this dashboard window opens automatically. And then you can see here, so I'll use John's response as an example because these responses are sorted by time. So John was the first person to submit his response, and so it's showing up here. All right, so you can, here next to a student's response, click these 3 dots and hide the student response. So if a student submits something that is distracting or sensitive or inappropriate, and you don't want to share it with the group, you can click these 3 dots and you can hide the response from the shared presentation screen. So you'll see now that I hid 2 responses, and the 4 remaining responses are the only that students can see on the shared screen. Sort of on the flip side of that, you can specifically highlight or share a small group of student responses. So if you would like to specifically recognize students for creative thinking, innovative problem solving, strong group work, you can click this star next to their response. So if I click this button here, star answer next to Rachel's response, that is now the only response that is projected on the shared presentation view. So you can star student responses to share a small group of them. This is a nice way to recognize and highlight students. It's also a really good way to practice and facilitate the reteaching of content, correcting misunderstandings, for example. So when I was in, I remember having this conversation with my high school math teacher. I went in to ask her a question about some homework, and she said, "You're really close, but you made a common mistake here right in the middle." And that was sort of like eye-opening for me that there were a lot of people making the exact same mistake that I was making. So I think this star answer feature from the dashboard is a really powerful instructional tool in that you can immediately root out misunderstandings. You can facilitate the reteaching of content by highlighting student responses. You can share them for students and teach through them without ever revealing to the rest of the class who the students are that have made the mistake in solving for your prompt, whatever the prompt happens to be. Okay. All right. So the third way to interact with individual student responses. So you can hide them and you can specifically highlight them. We've talked about that already. You can also send direct written feedback to students about their response. So I'm going to click, I will send some feedback to Erin here. So if next to Erin's response, if I click this speech bubble that says leave feedback, if I click here, I can write some feedback to Erin about this submitted response. So I can say, wow, that looks fun. Seems like kind of a long flight. All right. So then you can send written feedback to students about this response. From my dashboard, I see that there is now this leave feedback bubble is grayed out next to Erin's response. So I can see that, that I've left feedback for this student. From Erin's screen, there is now, on Erin's student screen, there's a little red notification bubble. So students will get notifications whether they are working asynchronously or in instructor-paced mode. They will get notifications that there is unread feedback waiting to be looked at from their teacher. Okay. So again, just to review, from the dashboard, you can hide student responses, you can highlight them, and you can also send students written feedback about their response. Okay, so just to quickly go over the 3 views of Pear Deck again, and then we're gonna start Q&A here in just about 1 minute. So these are the 3 views of Pear Deck. You've experienced all of them already. So this screen where you are seeing my shared screen and my mouse moving around in Google Meet is the presentation view or the classroom view. The second view of Pear Deck is the teacher dashboard. So that's the window that opens up automatically when you start your presentation, or the dashboard that you have open in a second device, like a tablet or a phone. So if you'll look at my shared screen really quickly, I just want to show you how you can open your dashboard in a second device. Down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, we haven't talked about these 3 little dots yet. So there's a lot of good information behind these 3 little dots. You can open your dashboard in a new window. So if you close the dashboard window accidentally or you need to reopen it, you can do that by clicking these 3 dots and opening the dashboard. You can also click this option, Open Dashboard in New Device. So the device that you run the dashboard on, all you need is a browser and an internet connection. So I would just open the browser on my phone and log in with the same email address. So you would just log in with your same district email address on your phone, and then you can run the presentation from the second device. It's totally up to you how you choose to run the dashboard. I prefer to have it open in a second window when I'm presenting virtually. When I'm presenting live professional development, I like to have it open on my phone because it's a nice way to be able to move throughout the participants or the attendees. So it's a nice way to still see responses coming in, interact with student responses, but be untethered from the front of the classroom or whatever room you're in. And then the third view of Pear Deck is the student view. That's what you are experiencing on your screen, where you are responding to my prompts from your own device. All right, so look back at my shared Google Meet screen again, because I want to show you one more new feature that I'm going to use to facilitate the Q&A, and that's the new prompt feature. So I know that this might feel like a lot of information. I know a lot of you are brand new to Pear Deck. We're going to do a Q&A in a second, and I'll just start answering the questions aloud. I mentioned this earlier that most of your creating will be done from the add-on in Google Slides. So you will add templates from there. You will add assessments or engagement from the add-on. Sometimes you may just need to drop in interactivity on the fly, and you can use this new prompt feature down here at the bottom of the screen to do that. So when you click new prompt, you can add in a lesson building template. So if you want to do just like a quick reflection activity, you can drop that in on the fly. A check for understanding, a bell ringer. You can use this arrow to scroll, and that will give you more assessment or temperature check options. So you can build in a temperature check, true, false, agree, disagree. You can drop in a grid for students to graph on top of. You can have students draw a picture. And then if we scroll once more, so this is the current content of my screen. This is a static instructional slide, and that's okay. You will need just instructional content slides in your Pear Deck presentations. Not every slide you present will have Pear Deck interactivity, and I would say that it shouldn't. Not every slide should be a Pear Deck slide. It'll take a long time, and it will just, it's not the, anyway, you'll need some filler slides. So click new prompt, and then you can also layer Pear Deck interactivity on top of the current content. So what I'm going to do is add a text box. I'm going to make this a Pear Deck text question by clicking text right here. So I've now added Pear Deck interactivity over the top of the current content. So I want you to use that text box that's now on your Pear Deck student screen to ask any questions that you might have for the Q&A. So again, I'll show you just once more. Down here, I clicked new prompt to add this text box to my screen, and then I just clicked text. So now from your student screen, where you joined my presentation as a student, you will be able to use that text box to ask questions for our Q&A. So I'm going to give you a quick timer. I'll give you a 3-minute timer. So if you have questions, feel free to put them there, and I will start answering them as they come in about a minute. All right, I see some good questions coming in here. So I am going to just start answering these aloud. I'm going to share them on the screen. All right. So the first question is, when I log in through Pear Deck, it pulls my slides from Drive. Is that a good way to do this? Or should I be going through slides and start presentation? I think that that's a personal preference. I think it's easier to just start from slides. Like, there are some useful things that you will need on the Pear Deck homepage, and I'm going to show them to you in just a minute. But I think it's easier to just find the file that you're looking for in Drive, open it, and then open the Pear Deck add-on from slides instead of going to the homepage. How do you suggest that we have our teachers who are teaching online do this? Is it through student pace? So I think it depends how much live teaching. So I think it's up to those teachers. Although I would have them do this just like I did this today. I would have students join a Google Meet or a video conference, and then I would present from Pear Deck. I would present with Pear Deck and share my presentation screen in Google Meet or whatever video conferencing platform that I'm using. So if you have teachers who are teaching remotely and they want to use Pear Deck at the same time, I would have them do it just like I did it today. Although there are a lot of ways to do this. So sometimes what teachers will do is they will send students a student pace mode deck. And even while they're in a live video conference with them, students will just be working quietly, working independently. So it's almost like office hours or independent work time, which eliminates the need for teachers to be running the student pace session at the same time. I think there are a lot of ways to do this. I think it will help a lot for teachers to practice with like their colleagues first, just to see what works best for them. You can also, teachers don't necessarily have to present synchronously at all. You can have students working in student pace mode for homework, and then you can just project the responses after the fact on a video conference. And I'll show you how to do that in a moment. Do you have suggestions about what educators have found to be too many interactive slides versus maybe not enough? Where is the balance? That is a very good question. I think it depends on what you're teaching, the age of students, and like what I always tell people is, where would you naturally build in an assessment or a check for understanding anyway? Like, where would you have students respond individually on whiteboards in the classroom? Or where would you ask for a response and build in, where would you have students write something on a piece of paper? Like, put a Pear Deck slide there. I usually say, like, to get started, the easiest action step to get started is to add a template check-in at the beginning and one assessment at the end. And then I think you will sort of discover like a natural balance. Every single slide being a Pear Deck slide is too many interactive slides. It will take a long time. It's not like a natural way necessarily to assess students. It doesn't like mimic the natural flow of the classroom necessarily. It will also just like, it's going to be a really big file. If you're presenting to a lot of students on the same wireless network, it might just slow things down a little bit. So I would say to get started, add 2 to 3. And then from there, I think you'll sort of find a natural balance where there may be a lot more or many fewer slides. I know that's not it's not like an exact answer. I'm not trying to be cagey. I think it really just depends on like how it works best for you. All right. How are educators using this tool to gather data and feedback to make decisions for online hybrid learning? So I think that one of the ways, I think that an interesting way that teachers are using this to make decisions about online learning is, so Pear Deck was created so that you can hear from every single student every day. And so during remote learning, I think it's been especially useful for teachers who never see their students in person. and the student maybe never unmutes their microphone or turns their camera on. But it's a nice way for you to know that they are there and engaged and responding, even though you can't see them. I think it's also a really good way. I mean, it's helping teachers to make decisions about online and hybrid learning, because it's an easy way for you to identify misunderstandings or students that are struggling in a way that you would maybe be able to do better if you could see them in person. But now that you can't, you can like gather from their responses that they are struggling with the concept. They are struggling at home. They're having a hard time generally. I can show you how, so there are a lot of like social emotional learning things that I think are helping teachers. I think it's also just academically helping teachers to stay engaged and hear from students about content and like get a response from every single student. Okay. All right, so I know that we are like bumped up right at the top of the hour here, and I want to be respectful of your time. So I want to show you first, what I'm going to do is I will leave this presentation in student pace mode so you can continue working. I want to show you before we go how you can toggle between instructor pace and student pace on the fly. And you can toggle back and forth between lesson modes as often as you would like or as often as you need to. So down here, again, in the bottom right-hand corner of the presentation view, and you can do this from the dashboard as well, if you click these three little dots, you can turn on student pace mode. So when I turn on student pace, where I have been controlling which slides you see up to this point, if you look back at the student screen, you'll see that you can, in the bottom left-hand corner of the Pear Deck student screen, you can move through the presentation freely now. So you can be clicking through the slides, you can be responding to the prompts. When students are working in student paced mode, their responses are saving automatically, and I can see the responses coming in from the dashboard. So this is a really nice way to have students work on homework, on review packets, what would normally be printed review packets. You don't have to leave your browser open. You don't have to leave your dashboard open or your computer open. Students can just be working asynchronously at home. And then from your Pear Deck homepage, you can always reopen your dashboard. I'll show you very quickly how to do that so that I don't keep you too long. So this is your Pear Deck homepage. Up here in the top left-hand corner is where you can find all of your Pear Deck sessions. So every time you click Start Lesson from the add-on in Slides, it will start a Pear Deck session. This one up here, let me refresh this really quickly. This one here is the one that I'm presenting to you now. So this is the student pace session that I have you in. From your sessions page, you can always reopen your dashboard. So if you send students a student pace mode link on Thursday morning and you expect that they will have worked through it over the weekend, on Sunday afternoon, you can come here to the sessions page from your Pear Deck homepage, and you can always reopen your dashboard to start reviewing their work. For closed Pear Deck sessions, those sessions that you've ended, you can also export student responses to a Google spreadsheet. So you can click Export to Spreadsheet here to see their responses that way. Okay. So it's 11:02 where I am, 10:02 where you are. I don't mean to cut this off very abruptly, but I don't want to keep you here for longer than was promised. So I'm going to leave this session in student pace mode. You can continue working. Again, my email address is Brooke with an E at peardeck.com. So if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I know that this was a lot of information, and I'll be happy to help answer your questions. And I will look forward to working with you all this year. I hope you're all doing well and having a nice start to your school year, if not strange. and that you're all staying healthy and safe. Thanks for having me, Erin.
No, thank you, Brooke. This has been phenomenal. I know all the educators that were told in late last night to do some other work, they're just joining in. So for those joining in,
Okay.
this will all be recorded, and this was taking a look at using Pear Deck within your Google Slides for interactivity within the work that you're trying to do, whether that's student paced on their own or in a live session. And so kind of unfortunate timing for a lot of you, because I think this tool addresses a lot of the concerns that a lot of you have been sharing through email and in the Jamboard of how do we get kids to interact, how do we collect data on the kids to do assessments, how do we see how they're doing, whether we're teaching live online or the stuff on their own. And so it will be recorded. You can go back and check it out. And I did put a link in the chat for this learning pathway. So when Brooke and I were planning, for those that want to continue to explore Pear Deck, those that were on the call, one of the we came up with was just to do that, create a very simple challenge, like literally a slide deck with just one slide, taking a look at how to create an interactive thing, and she showed us lots of great tips to get started with that.
Hey, Mr. Maurer, can you put that link back in there? Because I joined after you put the link in.
Absolutely.
Please, thank you.
And I added another challenge as Brooke was talking too, that I know kind of came up, was also maybe spending a time to kind of figure out how your setup's going to look. So as you have your presentation screen and you have your teacher dashboard looking at the real-time information coming in, some of you have one screen, some of you might be lucky to have more than one screen. We shared some extensions. I'll get that shared in the chat here as well. That might be a task in of itself, is just kind of trying to figure out the delay and display that works best for you and your teaching approach. So Brooke, I can't thank you enough. Thank you for your email that's in there. I know many of these educators they're gonna have to go back and all the time that I know they don't have to check this session out, but I know it would be helpful. But for those that are joining, Brooke, as if you have any questions or need help, her emails are in the chat. I'll make sure we have it in our classroom as well. You can reach out to her and she will be more than willing to help you. And for those that don't know, you can tell by her email, she works for Pear Deck. So we brought the people in that know what they're doing. And so
cool.
On that learning pathway page too, there's all those resources to the templates and just all the things that are there's a lot there, but you don't have to reinvent the wheel as well. Don't think you have to build this stuff from scratch. There's already a lot that's been created that's easy to modify. I say easy once you get comfortable with Pear Deck. It's easy to modify, to put your own content and twist on things. So, so Brooke, I know you're busy. I know you've got probably 10,000 other things in your place. So thank you for joining us. They have their email. We'll follow up if they have questions. And I can't thank you enough for finding some time to help us kind of learn Pear Deck a little bit.
It was my pleasure. Thank you all for having me. I hope you're doing well, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.